Everyone, welcome back to the Boiled Up podcast. It's been a very busy week in sports with the conclusion of the MLB season. The Dodgers took home LA's second trophy this year. A lot of big NFL storylines, a lot of great games this week. The undefeated Steelers are in Baltimore to face off against the 5-1 Ravens, and the 5-2 Buccaneers are signing Antonio Brown and adding to that already stacked receiving core. So we'll start with the Dodgers Rays. Jake, what's your reaction to the Dodgers winning the World Series? And specifically, did Kevin Cash make the right move in Game 6 with pulling Blake Snell?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that that was maybe one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in a World Series ever made. So that's pretty much, I think everybody universally agrees that Cash never should have taken Snell out of that game. And look, congratulations to the Dodgers. I mean, they deserve this title. They've been robbed, I think, before from the Astros, their past two opportunities in the World Series. So there's nothing I can really, I can't really down this World Series for the Dodgers. I mean, it was a different season. It was a 60-game season, which, is shorter, and it was better for the players to get rest. But, this is a well-deserved title for the Dodgers, and they deserve every bit of credit for it. But I really believe we would have saw Game 7 if Blake Snell was not pulled. He gave up one single, and then they decided to pull him when he was at like 75 pitches in the sixth. I think it was the sixth or the seventh inning. And after that, Betts hit the double, and then I believe it was Seager hit the sac fly to put him up 2-1. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, it was just the worst move I've ever seen. You cannot stand up there and tell me that Snell didn't have at least an inning or two left in him. He doesn't go far a lot. This season he was pulled early in a lot of games, so it's not like it was abnormal, but this is the World Series. You can't pull a guy when he's pitching this well. I mean, he had like 9 strikeouts, and the Dodgers weren't sniffing him at all. They got one lucky single. I think it was Barnes hit the single, and after that, Cash can't pull. I was like, what? I was like, what's going on? Is Snell hurt? I thought Snell was seriously might have injured him, but then Snell was complaining, getting pulled out, and he just knew it was a mess. And from there on out, it was all Dodgers all the way. And you have to congratulate the Dodgers, but I think it's incredible to me that we didn't see a Game 7, and it's too bad. It's the best thing in sports.
I know this goes against kind of what a lot of people believe, but personally, I think pulling Blake Snell was the correct move for the Rays. I think the outcome was very unfortunate, but I think pulling Blake Snell in that position was the right move because all year long they've been limiting all their starting pitchers. He's really never gone that far so far this season. The Rays have this theory where once you go through two times through the order, the third time the pitcher gets hit a lot harder, the numbers spike up. If you look at his ERA, I mean, I believe it was the fourth inning. After the fourth inning in the postseason, Blake Snell's ERA is over 12, where through the first 4 innings, his ERA is under 1. So the analytics do support it, but I don't know, because there's something about watching the baseball game. The guy was just dealing. I think you could leave him in. But, I mean, when you look at the analytics, they do support the move, and I'm more of an analytics guy. I like it. I think the real issue is bringing in Anderson. Anderson has been crushed all series. He was not pitching well. And they have so many good arms in that bullpen, but Anderson just wasn't pitching well in that series. I don't know why you would bring him in. I think pulling Snell was the right option, but at the same time, I think the outcome was just unfortunate. They shouldn't have brought in Anderson. It should have been a different reliever because they have so many good relievers in there. They're just such an analytically driven team because they have one of the smallest payrolls in baseball, and they're going up against the Dodgers in the championship who have the highest payroll. So when you look at it, the reason they got there was analytics. I think you got to stick with it. You live and die by the analytics. And it was just an unfortunate outcome because I do think it was the right move to pull him because I think he did have success the first 2 times. I believe they all struck. I think it was he faced the top 3 batters twice, and I think they were 0 for 6 with 6 strikeouts. I'm pretty sure somebody would have gotten a hit, and I know they did give up a hit. I believe it was Will Smith got a single, and it was there was a runner on first. I think either way, after Will Smith, they would have pulled him because that's just how the Rays work. I think they would have pulled him no matter what because they would have been at the top of the order for the 3rd time through. And it's unfortunate because I really wanted a Game 7, but at the same time, I think you live and die by the analytics. I think it was the right move for the Rays.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the analytics and everything. I think you still got to keep him in, but if you do put him in, you don't put it in Anderson. I think they put in Yarbrough right at the end there. I would have put in Yarbrough then. Yarbrough has always been sort of a middle inning kind of long-term middle inning guy. So I would have rather have him there than Anderson, who's really struggled in this postseason. So, I mean, I understand the analytics. I still would have kept him in, but I agree. You had the wrong pitcher in there too. So it was a bad decision whether any way you slice it.
Yeah, well, when you look at the numbers so far, Snell has a .742 OPS the third time through the order in the same game, which is, I mean, is not very good. And then when you get to against righties in 2020, Snell allowed a 1.02072 OPS the third time through the order. And Mookie Betts was coming to the plate, and I don't know if you remember this, but he was in Boston. He was on the Red Sox, had his team there, and
Yeah.
Mookie always crushed him. Mookie always had his number when he
Yeah.
would go back and through. Mookie always hit him well, so I do understand why they pulled him. Like there's a lot of numbers that do support pulling him, and I understand where they're coming from. And since they're such an analytically driven team, I think you had to pull him in that situation. It's just it would go against everything they stand for.
Yeah, you guys both raised some good points, and I think you can look at it both ways. Just an unfortunate result, but something to keep in mind. This year, Mookie Betts actually had the worst OPS against lefties. I think they were saying that stat as the Dodgers went up. So we'll move along here and move on to basketball. So both of you are big Sixers fans. We saw the Sixers sign Daryl Morey. What are your thoughts on the rumors that they could possibly land Harden? We'll start with Justin.
Personally, I'm probably the biggest James Harden fan out there. I just love his game. And I think him and Embiid would be one of the best duos we have ever seen. I think it would compare to Shaq and Kobe would be up there as two of the best basketball players playing together. I would do everything I can to get James Harden a 76ers jersey. And for me, that includes trading Ben Simmons. I would make a deal of maybe Ben Simmons and Jay Rich for Rocco, Harden, and maybe another shooter like House or Gordon or somebody else. I think that would be a pretty even deal. I would do my best to keep Ben, but I don't think the Rockets would do that. I think you have to give up Ben in that situation. And I think Ben and Harden and Embiid is just a much better duo than Ben and Joel, because I don't think Ben's ever going to take that jump shot. And if Ben isn't taking that jump shot, the duo just doesn't work. There's not enough spacing on the floor. So I would do everything you can to get James Harden in a Sixers jersey, and it includes trading Ben Simmons.
Well, I agree to an extent. I think this was an unbelievable signing. I mean, we've seen what Morris been able to do. First of all, Morris brought Harden to Houston in that first deal in 2013. That was an unbelievable steal. That they gave up like Jeremy Lamb and
That was robbery.
A couple picks for who is now the best scorer, maybe one of the best scorers we've ever seen in the NBA. And then he pulled off a couple other really good deals too. He got Chris Paul in there. I'll bet it was only for a year, and then he pulled off the big Westbrook deal last summer. This is a guy who just knows how to make trades. So I'm all for this. I am all for getting James Harden on this team. I think he'd be a fantastic fit. The only thing that's going to be interesting about this trade is, do you have to give up Ben Simmons? Can we give up Horford or Tobias and package those guys together? Because the one thing that Morey's really been good at is getting rid of massive bad contracts. And I think it'd be really good to get some of those off the books because having Embiid and Harden is fantastic, but as we know, you've got to have some role players around them who can shoot and score, and that's how those guys are going to thrive off each other. So if we could somehow make a trade for James Harden, you might have to go Ben. I'm assuming you probably will have to go Ben. I don't see any scenario where you really don't if I'm the Houston Rockets, but we've seen some pretty lopsided trades before, so maybe there's a possibility with a bunch of picks.
I mean, if you sent them an offer of like Jay Rich, Shake Milton, Matisse Thybulle, like 5 first-round picks, I think
could do what
there's at least some temptation there just based on where the picks are, because now the draft is going to be set up where high schoolers are going to be able to enter again.
Yeah.
So those picks do have more value coming up in the future. So I could definitely see something like that. But would the Sixers be willing to give up all that draft capital either? I don't know. Maybe Ben, I don't know. It's a tough situation, but I think Ben should go. I think that fit isn't great. I would give him up for Harden just because I think that duo would be unstoppable. I mean, Harden would be averaging 38 points per game. Joe would be giving up 25, probably 11 and 4, something like that. It would just be a really good duo to watch. And as a Sixers fan, I would love it because we saw what happened in Houston when CP3 was healthy, when he had a second true star and he had a big man in Capella. That team was unstoppable. So if you were able to keep Ben, that team is certainly better. I mean, that team won 94% of their games when they were healthy. So if Ben, Joel, and Harden were on the same floor healthy, I think that team
The
would
best team in the
easily be
East.
the favorite in the East, and I think they'd be the favorite in the NBA. So if you can make that move happen, I would. But I think realistically, you have to give up Ben, and you'd be looking at a team of like James Harden. I think you could swap then maybe Thibault and Horford to get Buddy Hield, and then you get Buddy Hield at the 2, Rocco at the 3, Tobias at the 4, and Harden at the 5. I think that's a pretty solid starting 5.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're kind of wishful thinking here. I mean, I think I think now with Morey in position, this is a more reasonable trade than I think we thought before when we started hearing rumblings of this. But it'd be outstanding. I agree. I mean, I think Harden and Embiid are much better fit than with Simmons and Embiid. So, I'm all for this trade. It's a matter if the Sixers are. Is Elton Brand all for this trade? I am not a big Elton Brand fan, but if he can somehow help Morey get this deal done, and we can figure out what players are needed, we can just get Harden here. This team turns into an automatic title contender just with those two guys. You'd have a top 5 player in the NBA and probably a top 10 player in the NBA with Embiid, both with each other. That's going to be dangerous. That's going to be probably, I'd say, I don't know if
Embiid's top 10.
It's arguable. I'd say he's top 10, 15.
Well,
when he's at his best.
He's healthy, when he's healthy and in a rhythm, I'd say yes, he's top 10. But it's just too inconsistent for me. I think he's top 15 for sure, though.
And then I think the only team that would really, if we have those two, if we have Embiid, Simmons, and Harden, it's good night. The Nets don't have a chance, but I think the Nets, if they play up to their ability, they're probably maybe the best team in the East right now. And the Bucs too still could be a problem. So I'd say it'd be us three, those 3 teams if we get Harden here with Embiid. But if we can somehow keep Simmons with that core, it's the best team I think in the league. Probably, I'd have to agree with you.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Nets there. What do you think of now they have Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni there?
Yeah.
I think Kyrie may be an MVP candidate next year. I think he's going to be dropping like 35, 11, and 5 or something like that, or something crazy like that, because in that offense, he'd be set up for really
He's going to
good
score
stats.
a lot. But I think KD is also going to score a lot too. So I think those guys, assuming KD can stay healthy, he's coming off a tough injury. I'm sure he's going to be in and out of the lineup.
And I think Kyrie's a sleeper for MVP next year.
I agree. If he can stay healthy, him and KD both have had injury problems.
That's fair. One final thought about the Sixers is I don't know if Ben Simmons adds a lot if they get Harden other than defense. I think Simmons and Harden are pretty ball dominant, so I don't know if they necessarily need both. And I don't think the Rockets are taking a trade without Simmons in it. So
I agree with that. I think it's almost impossible for us to get it without Simmons, but you never know.
So we'll move on to
at the trade. If you were to do it at the trade deadline, though, that would mean you only have a year and a half of James Harden left on that contract. So maybe there is a way then. But right now, 2 full years of James Harden, you'd have to give up Ben.
You can't really take on a superstar
in the middle of the season. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
But it's just tough to implement him right away. I mean, getting him now with 2 or so months before the season would be ideal, depending on how we can do it. But we'll see.
Right. We'll move on to NFL here. So the big news with the NFL is that Antonio Brown signed with the Buccaneers and is eligible to return, I think, week 9. Jake, do you think this makes them the favorites in the NFC? And if so, do you think it makes them favorites in the NFL?
I'm going to go NFC favorites. I'm not ready to give them the NFL favorites. I'll get to that in a little bit here in one of our upcoming topics and who I think is the NFL favorite right now. But yes, this move is, I think it's a very good move for the Buccaneers. It's not, I think, the game changer for them, but what I've been seeing from them the last few weeks with that defense, I mean, they're making my Steelers defense look like maybe they're not the best defense in the league. I'm starting to have second thoughts. This Buccaneers defense is insane. They're leading the NFC in sacks, like pass deflections. They're like top in interceptions. It's insane. They're dominating. They made Aaron Rodgers look like a fool. In the first half, Derek Carr was doing pretty good, but the second half, they completely shut him down, and then they ended up dominating that game. But this is an important move because the Buccaneers have had a lot of injuries to their wide receivers. Mike Evans and Godwin have been in and out of the lineup all season. Now you get a guy like AB who really hasn't ever had injury history. His injury is really right now is his mental health, not really his body. The way he's been the last year or so. So he's going to be on the field. He's in outstanding shape. He's going to give you good production now. Can his head stay in the game? We'll see. I have a good feeling for him because I think he really likes Tom Brady. It's not like Big Ben or John Gruden, any guy he's going to really face heads with. The only guy who would say he could face heads with would be Bruce Arians because he coached him in Pittsburgh, and he was not a fan of Antonio Brown. So we'll see if that stays the course. If what he's saying right now that he's all for him is really legit. I still don't buy that Brady wasn't the one who made this decision, though. I think that was a bunch of crap coming out of Arians saying he made the decision.
Yeah.
But this is a big move, and I think regardless of this move, I think everybody's starting to take notice that the Bucs are not a joke. They're not a joke at all. I think they were the most overrated team probably in the offseason. People are realizing, well, maybe they will live up to the hype. Maybe they will get into that home Super Bowl. I certainly think they can. I don't think that the Seahawks are any better than them, especially after seeing them on Sunday. And the only other team that I would say in the NFC that would legitimately also have a chance, and that would be the Saints or the Packers. The Saints they'll get to face in Week 9, so we'll get to see how they match up against them. They did lose them Week 1, but that was a fluke game with no preseason for Brady. So Week 9 will be a true testament. If they can beat the Saints, then they'll beat 2 of the top 3 teams who I thought were in the NFC already. The Seahawks, I think, are a little bit too reliant on Russell Wilson, and their defense is not that good. So that could be a bad matchup for them. So I'd say they're easily NFC favorites right now. But NFL favorites, we'll have to see.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're definitely the NFC favorites. I mean, I was really low on them coming into the year. I didn't know really what to expect with the whole Corona. I didn't even have them making the playoffs. And the defense has surprised me. It's been very good. And the offense is just good. They have so much depth now. It's just incredible. And I think they may be the favorite. If the Chiefs didn't add Le'Veon Bell, I would say the Bucs are now the favorites, but I still got to stick with the Chiefs there for overall NFL. But in the NFC, absolutely. They were already my favorite before they signed AB after the past couple of weeks. They dominated that Packers team, who I thought was probably their only competition in the NFC. And adding AB, man, the only thing that's going to stop them is injuries, because Evans has been hurt, Godwin's been hurt, Scotty Miller's I think he had a hamstring injury at one point. They've lost their 2 other tight ends, Howard and Braid, so they're down to just Gronk. Injuries could stop them, but other than that, I think they're going to be the favorites in the NFC. I think they have to be, just the way they've been playing, and they have so much depth there now. I think AB's just like adding on to it, because I think they were already the favorites.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think when Brady gets his weapons, he's lethal. I will remind all our viewers that if you go back to the first episode that I was on, I said that the Bucs would go 12-4 and be the number 1 seed in the NFC.
It's a good call.
To much dismay from Jake and Justin, so I will point that out.
I never doubted the talent. I just doubted the ability to have an offseason with all these new weapons to be productive in the first couple weeks. And it looked like that was going to be true after that first week when they lost badly to the Saints. But after that, they've been dominant. So
you've seen the chemistry grow. Brady's now connecting with the wide receivers, because he didn't have any chemistry week 1, and you saw that.
I expected Brady to be what he was last year, which was like a 24-8 touchdown interception guy, which is solid, but it was more middle of the pack. And no, he's an MVP candidate right now, rightfully so. And he just won NFC Offensive Player of the Month. So he's extremely outperformed expectations, and I think he's the biggest reason why, outside of the defense, which I think we knew was good, but we didn't know how good it was. I think Brady's really, really surpassed expectations.
Yep, that is true. And now moving on to what Brady left behind. The Patriots look lowly right now. It is awful to watch. As a Patriots fan, I couldn't even pay attention to the 49ers game. It was so bad. Justin, do you think the Patriots have a chance to win this weekend against your Josh Allen and the Bills?
I just don't see it. They're just so bad. And, I mean, we saw what happened. We've seen Brady now go to Tampa Bay where he has weapons. He's had success. I think Cam Newton could be successful, but he has 0 touchdowns last 2 games, 5 interceptions. His wide receivers just don't create separation, and their best wide receiver will be on Tre'Davious White, so he's probably going to be locked down. I just don't see it. I don't think they have enough. I think the Bills have too many weapons. I think you're going to get John Brown, Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis. I think Gilmore could take out Diggs a little bit, but they still got a lot of other weapons in there. Josh Allen's, I think, going to pick them apart because they're just missing too many guys. They just don't have that same defense they had last year. It's not the same team. I think it's time for the Patriots to rebuild. I think their dynasty is kind of over, and I think it's time to just move on and rebuild. They don't have the weapons. No matter who is playing quarterback, I don't even think Patrick Mahomes could be successful on that offense just because they don't have anybody. Like, the wide receivers are the worst in creating separation. So Newton has nobody to throw to. The only offense they have is Newton running the ball or giving it to Harris or whoever is their running back, because they have 5 different running backs there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just don't see it. The Bills' defense has been kind of disappointing. They were so good last year. They just haven't been great this year, especially their run defense. They've had a lot of linebackers be hurt, like Matt Milano. So we'll see what happens there. I think it'll be a close game. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I think the Bills just hold on because they have more talent.
I have to agree. I think if there's any game that the Patriots are going to come fired up for this season, it has to be this game, because if they lose this one, it's over. I was talking to Addie before that, if they lose this game, I think they just go out and tank and don't win many more games to end up the season. I mean, obviously, you're probably going to get accidental victories against the Jets because they don't know how to win. So, there's 2 there. But I think after that, you try and go 4-12, you get a top pick, you get a guy who can help this offense next season and give them some weapon. I mean, maybe you go for a Jamar Chase or something like that to help them, or you go for a quarterback. I personally say that they should try and sign a quarterback if Newton still stinks. But I don't think they have any chance this weekend. I think it could be a close game, but I don't see the Bills, the way they've been playing this season, the way Josh Allen's been playing, and the way that defense has been playing. I really don't see any real chance of them possibly winning this game. I think it could be close though. I just think the Patriots will play hard, but it just won't be enough.
Yeah. Unfortunately, half of me wants to agree with you guys, but the thing is, I think Josh McDaniels, Cam Newton, Belichick, whatever, had to reinvent the offense, the entire offense this week. I think hopefully we see a lot of stuff that we haven't seen before from this Patriots offense. And the other thing to point out is that Sean McDermott is 0-6 against the Patriots. And I think the average points scored for the Bills is around 10 points a game in those games. And 3 of those games were with Josh Allen. So if we're going to win this game, it's not going to be a shootout. I think our defense is going to have to step up completely. Gilmore looks horrible right now. He's going to have to step up and actually take away Diggs. And then you could be looking at a 13-10 Patriots win. But anything outside of that, it's full tank mode, as Jake said. I think if you lose this week,
I think it will be closer than what people are saying, but I don't see a possible way for them to finish the game. Unless if Newton plays like he did pre to his COVID diagnosis.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at it, Newton just hasn't been good, and the weapons aren't there. They need to run more read option stuff, quick passes, and I think if you can get running going, I think the run game going, I think you can beat up on this Bills defense, because that's been their one weakness. And I think if you can get that,
they don't have
you
running
could.
back.
They have. I think Harris.
5
Harris is questionable. Yeah, but you're gonna have to just run the read option and have success, because we've seen other guys go onto this Bills defense and they're just running all over them. So we'll see what happens there. But as for the Patriots defense, one thing is, you mentioned, I think you said 10 points per game is what they're averaging or something like that. They didn't have Stephon Diggs. This Bills offense is totally different with Stephon Diggs, because what that defense did was they would double team John Brown, and then Stephon Gilmore would take whoever the other wide receiver is and just shut them down. And Josh Allen nowhere to throw the ball, and they would just kind of what the Chiefs did last week and just forcing them to throw dink and dunk passes, because the Bills do not like to run the ball. They don't run the football. Devin Singletary hasn't been that impressive. Zach Moss hasn't done anything. So I think you could try and force them. I don't know what you do. Put Gilmore on Diggs and then hope John Brown and Cole Beasley have a bad day. But I just don't see it. I think the Bills offense is too good for that defense now. If you guys had your players that didn't opt out because of COVID, then I could see it being closer. But because you had all those guys opt out, it's tough.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So moving on from the AFC East to now the NFC East, which looks like a complete garbage can. We have Eagles-Cowboys this Sunday night, which would normally be a great game, and it's been a great game for the last couple of years, but unfortunately a lot of injuries on Dallas' side. I actually just got a notification Sanders is out along with a lot of other Eagles, so injury-ridden game. Justin, what are your thoughts on Eagles-Cowboys this weekend?
This should be a game where the Eagles just come out and absolutely destroy the Cowboys. It should not even be close. They should be winning 38-10 at most. That's what the score should be. But knowing the Eagles, it will be a close game. I'm just not confident in them. I think Wentz just hasn't put up 4 good quarters. Like, even last game against the Giants, he started off hot, had that good opening drive, went down, but then was non-existent in the second and third quarter. But then he came hot again in the fourth quarter and won them the football game. He was non-existent the first 3 quarters of the Ravens game, and then he came back and almost won them the game in the fourth quarter. So if he can put together 4 good quarters, they'll be fine. But if he goes out there and struggles again like that, I don't know. Luckily, you get Jalen Reagor back, so you have 2 burners out there with Fulgham and Ward in the slot. So you get a little better there. Boston Scott really only plays well against the Giants. He's not really good against other teams, so I'm not sure how that will be. I saw Jason Peters and Lane Johnson are trying to play, so we'll see what happens there. But the Eagles' coaching has just been bad. Barely beat the Giants last week. I think it would be like a 30-14 Eagles win, but it should be a lot more than that.
Well, I've been clamoring for this game to be flexed and for my Steelers to be playing the Ravens in the Sunday Night Football game. Obviously, that's not going to happen. We all know what's going to be the better game there. We got possibly two of the best teams in the AFC, in my opinion, the best team in the NFL, my Steelers. We'll talk about that later, playing in that game. But nevertheless, the Eagles should win this game 50-3. This should not be a close game at all. This should be an absolute destruction. But knowing and this is why I feel bad for you guys as Eagles fans because, well, you, Justin, but I feel bad for, Eagle fans because every game it seems like you guys should, like the Giants game. This is a Giants team that is 1-5, and you guys are down like 11 points to them with like 4 or 5 minutes to go. And it's just like, how did this happen? It doesn't make sense why that game was so close, why it had to come down to like the last seconds. It's unbelievable. But, this Cowboys team is so bad. This is, honestly, I think the Cowboys, with the injuries, and now they're playing this guy named Ben DiNucci. This guy, who is this guy? He's the third-string quarterback. They're probably the worst. They're probably worse than the Jets. I think, legitimately, if they played the Jets right now, they would lose. That's how bad I think they are. So I don't think they're going to score a lot. I think the Eagles could literally play terrible and probably still win this game like 10-3, which is unbelievable because their defense is really good. And we saw what Washington did. They shut down Dallas. So you can only imagine the Eagles might pitch a shutout. You guys are going to win. It's the lock of the week. If you had to pick one game that's a lock of the week, it's this game. I would actually take this game as more of a lock over the Kansas City Chiefs and Jets game. But knowing what the Eagles do,
I would not do that.
I would not do that. This is an awful team. This is the worst team I've ever seen. Based on what I saw last week, watching them play a little bit against Washington, that was brutal. That was absolutely brutal. And I have to say, the Jets will not win this, will not beat the Chiefs. But, if I had to say which game has the best chance of being the biggest blowout, I think it's got to be this game. This could be very brutal.
Yes, but I think you're forgetting they're going to have maybe 7 out of 11. Maybe they're going to be missing 7 out of 11 starters going into this game. Those wide receiver core is the most drops in the NFL. Carson Wentz has been sacked the most in the league. He's been the most pressured, most blitzed. His wide receiving core is the 29th yards after catch. The defense isn't playing great. It's just the Eagles football team has not been a good football team so far. And
they haven't, but this we're talking about. I think this is the worst team in the league. I still think the Eagles are a middle of the pack team right now.
What do you think the Giants were? The Giants were up 11 points with 5 minutes left, and the Giants aren't a good football team.
But I'd say that there's like a big drop off right now between the rest of the NFL, and then there's the Jets and the Cowboys, like way down there in the basement. In my opinion, that's just how I'm feeling.
I agree, but it's the Eagles. It's a divisional game. Divisional games are always tough. Doug Peterson has just been a brutal coach this year. If it weren't for them being in the NFC East, I think he'd be on the hot seat. He'd be on his way out.
Yeah.
Him and Howie Roseman would easily be on their way out. They're just lucky they're in the NFC East.
Now you guys have had a lot of injuries.
It's a bad football team right now. Yes, you're right. There's a lot of injuries. If this team was healthy, I think it would be a different story. But when you're going out there with Travis Fulgham, Greg Ward, and John Hightower as your 3 wide receivers, Fulgham is good, but he also gets 20 targets a game, so he should at least be half decent. You're on your third string tight end. your fifth right guard who's out there fixing his gloves mid-play and sacking his own quarterback. So, I mean, it's just it's brutal to watch. I mean, it is bad to watch. And they just go through lumps where they just don't do anything offensively. They go the second and third quarter, they had consecutive 3-and-outs multiple times. It was bad football. And if they do that again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys were able to win this football game, just because I think they'll probably start off hot. Doug will be creative, have a nice scripted drive down. They'll go down and score. And then after that, up until the fourth quarter, they really won't have anything going unless the defense comes out there and makes a play and puts them in good field position. I don't know if the offense can really go down the field. They didn't show it against the Giants, who are not a very good football team. So I don't know why I would have confidence against them, against the Cowboys. Like, I'm just worried, and I think that's just me being an Eagles fan.
I think you just look like, I mean, and we're going to talk about our big game here soon. Like, I'm very scared heading into Sunday, but I can see why you'd be a little scared. But I do not be scared. Ben DiNucci, I think honestly, I'll do a better job than what Ben DiNucci will do on Sunday. I could go out there and pitch the ball to Ezekiel Elliott better than he's going to throw it. I don't even know who the hell this guy sounds like. They brought him from Italy. Random guy from Italy that they brought over, just a random guy from Italy to go throw passes and lose the game. So who knows? I think it's gonna be brutal. I mean, the Eagles defense is also very, very strong. Ben DiNucci might not make it out of this game. I mean, and I don't even know who they're gonna go to after that. Yeah. I don't even know. It might be CeeDee Lamb throwing passes after that. Who knows?
Yeah, the one thing you also have to keep in mind is the Eagles have had 10 days to prepare for this game, whereas the Cowboys have had 7 days. Yeah. So hopefully Doug Peterson can have a good game plan going into this game. All right, Jake, I know you're dying to talk about it, so let's talk about that Steelers-Ravens game. What are your thoughts on this game? I agree with you. It should be flexed, but I don't think CBS would ever let go of that game. So I think it's at 1 o'clock.
Well, you can't flex it because you need 13 days. You have to do 13 days prior, or there has to be a COVID-related.
Yeah, now last year you could, because like we saw Eagles and Cowboys get flexed week 16 game, but this year it's different, which sucks, unfortunately. But I'm excited and I'm scared for this game. This is going to be easily the biggest game of the year for us outside of the Thanksgiving Day game where we play the same Ravens. So, these are the two biggest games of the year for us when we play this team. It's the biggest. It's maybe one of the best rivalries in the NFL. Personally, I actually say Cowboys and Eagles usually was until this year. That was one of the better rivalries just because of how big the Cowboy brand is. But I'm really excited for this game. It's going to be hard. We're a bit banged up. Everybody looks like they're going to play. Everybody's just a little bit banged up. And sometimes you don't know what banged up and playing is. You don't know, well, maybe they were just a little bit banged up or how bad they're banged up. But it seems like everybody's going to give it a go in this game that was questionable. There's still a couple players that are waiting on. We're still waiting on Hayward and Spillane to see if they're going to play. We really can't lose Spillane because we got nobody else after we lost Bush. But this game is going to come down to getting ahead of this Ravens team early. If we can score early, Lamar and company, they are not good when they're down. They can't play the way they want to play. They want to run the ball. They want to have Lamar juking you all over the field. They want to run up the scoreboard on you. But when they're down, Lamar's forced to throw. And as much as a supporter of Lamar as I've been, which is shocking because I actually hate the Ravens, I support him as a thrower. I'd say he's an average thrower of the football at best. He's not a top 5, top 10 thrower of the ball yet. He's just not accurate enough. He's
below average, well below average.
He's too inconsistent throwing the football. And with this Steelers line, he's going to have to throw that ball quick. And getting that ball out quick means he's going to have to make even more precise throws. And then you got guys in the secondary like Hayden. You got Minkah Fitzpatrick out there that are going to be biting on a lot of these passes that he's going to be cutting in quick. And I wouldn't be surprised if the last time we played Lamar, he threw 3 interceptions. So I think he could have another big interception game on Sunday. The thing that scares me the most is just if the Ravens start out ahead of us early, they're going to put us away, and it's not going to be good. We played them really tough last year. The only game that it was an actual Ravens game was early in the season when we almost won before a fumble late in the game cost us the game, and then the Ravens won. But we were not at full strength. We still had our one of the best defenses in the league, but we had Rudolph at quarterback. So it wasn't, and Jackson didn't play good. He didn't play good in that game because that defense was too much for him. And we've seen what really good defenses have done to him in the past. I mean, the Chiefs have locked him down. The Titans locked them down, and we've locked them down. And I think we can lock them down again this Sunday. But it's all about getting out early. This offense cannot be tired in the beginning of this game. We got to score right away. We got to get ahead, and then we got to kind of just run out the clock and just hope for the best, because this is our toughest game of the year, since it is technically in Baltimore as well. But I'm scared, and that defense for the Ravens is no joke too. So I do think this will be a low-scoring game. I think this will be somewhere around the 20 to 17 range. I'm going with my Steelers. I'm going to say we win 24 to 21. I'm going to say 24 to 21 we win. I think it's going to be another nail-biter. I'm hoping that it's not like the Titans game where we get ahead early and then give up late in the game and lose, because we really should have probably lost that game. If it had gone to overtime, all the momentum was going to Tennessee. We can't rely on a guy missing a 40-yard field goal, because Justin Tucker's not going to miss a 40-yard field goal if he needs to at the end.
He's going to make that every time.
But I'm scared. I'm excited. It's a huge game. I think we're going to win. And then, we're going to be 7-0. And to be honest, then we play the Cowboys, so we're going to be 8-0 after that. So, this game is a big predictor as to what we're going to look like by the end of the season, and if we can get that first-round bye, which I really want. Because remember, this year only one team gets the bye because of the new format. So it's even more important. But I'm excited. I'm scared. And I'm picking my Steelers to win. And I'm not confident. I have to say, I'm very scared. This is the first game all season where I'm going into it tentative. The past 6 weeks that we've played, I've been like, this is our game. The Titans, I thought, are a good team, but I always thought we were a little bit better than them. But the Ravens, they're just scary, and if they can get ahead of us, they might blow us out. If we can get ahead of them, though, I think we can play a really good game and shut Lamar down. But that's what I got to hope for.
I don't think your Steelers could win this game. The Ravens are coming off a bye week, and you're coming off a brutal game against the Titans. That for me is the biggest reason why I think you guys can't win this football game. Now, for the Ravens, Lamar's been struggling. He hasn't thrown for over 200 yards in 5 weeks. It's been bad. He's not the same quarterback he was last year through the air. And I think he got exposed last year in the playoffs. I think if you keep him in the pocket and don't let him get out, he's a below average thrower from inside the pocket. Outside the pocket, he's probably the best in the NFL, but inside the pocket, he is not very good. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Now, see, the Steelers like to blitz a lot. They're the most blitz. I believe they have their team. They blitz the most.
We blitz the most, and we have the most quarterback hits, which is not good for Lamar.
Yes, but see, last year's Lamar was the best quarterback against the blitz because he ended up escaping it and getting outside. This year, he's not having that success. He's actually the worst quarterback against the blitz. So it depends on which Lamar really shows up. If the last year's Lamar shows up, I think it's over for the Steelers because he's just going to roll out of the pocket and find Hollywood Brown or Mark Andrews or somebody open. Now, if this year's Lamar, the Lamar from the last 5 weeks shows up, I think the Steelers are going to be hitting him all day in that pocket, not letting him escape, and it's going to be a rough day for him. But, both defenses are also so good. The Ravens added Yannick Ngakoue, I think that's how you pronounce it. I love his game. He is just a ferocious pass rusher. They have two of the best cornerbacks, good safeties. That team is just loaded. Patrick Queen at linebacker now. That team's good.
The defense scares me. That's the number one thing that scares me, even more than Lamar.
I think it's going to be a 17-13 win for the Ravens, but it's going to be low. I think it's going to be low scoring, and I just think the Ravens are too good. I think at home, all coming off the bye, I think the Steelers don't really win. There's just no way the Steelers win this football game. I don't see it, but I wouldn't be shocked if they won. But at the same time, the Ravens are too good.
Those are fair points. I think it's going to be I think everybody in the world agrees I don't think this is going to be a blowout on either side. Obviously this game is going to come down to the wire. It just pains me that the Ravens got the bye week right before this game, which really scares me because they're 100% healthy. We're extremely banged up. Ben wasn't taking many hits all season, and last week he took a ton of hits, a ton of big, brutal hits. So I'm sure he's a little banged up. Deontay Johnson's banged up. Eric Ebron's banged up. Juju Smith-Schuster's banged up. Now, they're all going to play, but, how is that going to affect them? We won't really know until game day. But I'm definitely worried for this game. I'm still riding with my Steelers. I have to. I still think that we're better than this team and that we're the best team in the NFL. But it's going to be our hardest game of the year, given the circumstances with the bye and the injuries banging us up. But it's going to be a really good game. It's going to be the game of the day. Romo is going to be on the call, so that's always a good one. I do like Romo as an announcer. I think he's better than I like Joe Buck, but I don't like Troy Aikman, so I don't really like that duo. But Jim Nantz and Tony Romo are always
As long as
somewhat
Tony
enjoyable.
Romo's not doing a Cowboys game, he's great. If
Yeah.
he's the announcer for a Cowboys game, then he gets a little biased, and that's where I start to dislike
Sort of
him.
like Aikman, I guess you could say.
Yeah, he's like Aikman in that way, but Aikman's just terrible at his job.
Yeah.
Tony Romo's actually solid. He just gets a little biased at times when it involves the Cowboys. But yeah, it's going to be a good game. I'm excited. CBS in Philly gets the game, so I'm going to be watching it.
Yeah, the whole world should be getting that game.
Well, I'll be getting Bills Patriots, so but yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. I think you guys hit all the main points. I was going to mention the bye as well. I think that's the biggest thing, and that for me is why the Ravens are going to win 28-20. And our last topic, Jake, let's go through your top 5 teams in the NFL right now.
All right. Well, I think we all know which one I'm going with at number 1, but I'll start with number 5. So at number 5 for me, I got the Green Bay Packers. I think the Green Bay Packers, coming off a big win, we saw them struggle against Tampa Bay, but I still think that they're a dominant team and that Tampa Bay is a really good team. And while that's a big, they got crushed in that game, I think they're better than that. There was a bit of flukiness in that game and that score. I do think the Buccaneers are better than them, but there was basically back-to-back 2 pick sixes from Rodgers that completely threw the game away for them. And that's why the score was so lopsided. But they're slotting in at number 5 for me. At number 4, I got to put the Seattle Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are still a top 5 team despite a really tough loss to the Arizona Cardinals. That was a hard-fought game. They were about to be undefeated just like my Steelers, but they fell in late. Kyler Murray looked fantastic in that game. The one thing that I have against the Seahawks that I've been talking about and why I think the Buccaneers are better than them is because their defense is not that good, and they're relying so much on Russell Wilson. Like, it seems like every play, every touchdown is all from Wilson. It seems like all the playmaking is coming from him. They got a good offense. They got a great offense with Russell Wilson, but that defense is suspicious.
So where you rank them at 4?
I got them at 4.
I think they're I think they don't make the playoffs. I think that team is very overrated.
What?
If you look at their team, at their wins so far, they beat the Falcons, 1 win, the Patriots, 2 wins. They nearly lost that game, and the Patriots are not a good football team. They nearly lost to the Cowboys, who are 2-5. They almost lost to the Dolphins, who are 3-3. They should have lost to the 1-5 Vikings, except the Vikings, I believe it was 4th and 12. They threw it up to DK, a 40-yard bomb, and I think whoever their safety was just stood there and watched DK go up and catch it right near the sideline. So they should not have won that game at all, and they lost again last week. They are just an overrated team. That defense is probably just as bad as the Cowboys defense, except the Seahawks offense is much better than the Cowboys offense. That's the only reason people really talk about them. I think the Seahawks are overrated. I think I would take a healthy Niners team. I would take over them. I would take the Arizona Cardinals for sure, and maybe even the Rams. I don't know. The Rams are too inconsistent.
The Rams are not. I don't think you can put the Rams there. I could see, and I don't think you can put the Cardinals there either, just because I think the Cardinals are still a little young. Like, they're playing outstanding. I think they're 5-2 or 4-2 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They had a very good season, but I still think they're about a year away from being a really elite team. But they're going to be scary. But look, the Seahawks. Yes, they've played a lot of bad teams, and they lost to the only good team that they've really played. But I still think that this is a very solid team. I think their schedule is going to get a little bit harder here down the stretch. So we're going to learn a lot about them. We're going to figure out if this team is really legit or not. But I really like them. The only thing I don't like is that defense. That defense seems to get gashed a lot. It seems like it's very beatable by almost any offense. But the offense is going to be potent when you have possibly the best player in the NFL right now, Russell Wilson, the way he's been playing. He's, I think we all know Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, but this season Russell Wilson's been outstanding. So the way he's been playing is going to keep them afloat and in the top 5 for me right now. Number 3, I got the Kansas City Chiefs. I have a lot of big question marks with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm starting to wonder if they're really who we think they are. So they had a really tough game against the Raiders, which they lost. They've played a lot of close games this year. I know they crushed the Broncos, but that's the Broncos. And the offense really wasn't much. It was mostly their special teams getting a bunch of fluke touchdowns. They played a close game to the Chargers. they played a somewhat close game with the Texans in that first game before they blew it open. But I don't know. I'm not sold on the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're a lot of hype. I still think, I mean, I have them at 3, so, they're still a top team for me. But I think everybody thinks it's a foregone conclusion that they're the best team, and I personally don't think so. I think there's 2 teams better than them. And I think those 2 teams right now I have number 2 are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers possibly have the best defense in the NFL and a top 5 offense. And then number 1, I got my Pittsburgh Steelers. We're undefeated. That should be a foregone conclusion right now. Given that we're undefeated, we proved ourselves with a very good win against the Titans last week. And this week we have to prove ourselves even more against the Ravens. This is the best team in the NFL right now, with just like the Buccaneers, one of the best defenses and one of the most efficient and top working offenses in the league. And it's going to be hard to stop us. And I think that could be the Super Bowl right now. It could be Steelers and Buccaneers. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards right now. I know it's kind of been ever-changing. I've always had the Steelers in there. But the NFC is a little bit more interesting for me now. I do think the Bucs are the best team, but I still got us at 1.
So go over your 5 again real quick.
So it was Packers, Seahawks, Chiefs, Buccaneers, Steelers at 1.
In backwards order.
Yeah.
I was just curious. So you don't have the Ravens on there?
I don't. I think the Ravens are 6 or 7 right now.
I was waiting for them to pop up, and I didn't hear them. So I was just.
But there's a little bit of bias
wondering.
in that.
Yeah. So for me, I'll go 5-1 again. I have the Arizona Cardinals at 5. I really like that team. I was watching Kyler Murray play, and he really impressed me. They have a lot of weapons out there with Kirk. Isabella looked good. He was getting open deep. Kyler was just missing him. And Hopkins, that's a good trio of wide receivers. You get Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds, good 1-2 punch out of the backfield. And that defense has been really good. It's been really good the past couple weeks. And you got Budda Baker.
I do like Budda Baker.
Hassan Reddick looked great. I like him because he's from Temple, and he looks great as a pass rusher. He failed at middle linebacker, but he looks great as a pass rusher. I like their defense a lot. I think they're 5. And I really only say that because they did take down the Seahawks. They'll get a couple divisional games here, so we'll see what they're really made of. But they get to play the AFC East and the NFC East. That's who they're playing this year. So they get. I believe they still play the Eagles, and I think they play the Redskins as well. I think those are the 2 teams they still play from the NFC East. That's 2 more wins. They already have 5. That gets you to 7. You still get to play. I'm trying to remember. I think they still get to play the Patriots, and I think it's the Dolphins. So that could be 2 more wins. And I just think they're gonna be a 10+ win team, because I think they're gonna win a couple more division games. I just think they're a good football team. I think they'll win 10, 11 games, and I think that's good enough to put them in the top 5 right now, especially the way they've been playing recently. 4, I got to go with the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Ravens have a top 2 defense in football. They're just good all around. We talked about them earlier. My only concern is that offense. It's not the same offense they had last year. Something has changed. It's not as dynamic because everyone was so impressed with their dynamic offense they had last year. It's just not the same. They're not throwing for as many yards. They really only have Andrews and Hollywood Brown. I would love for them to go get a guy like Michael Gallup or Will Fuller. I think that would really help Lamar. So if they can do that, I think they'll move up a lot higher. But right now, I have them at 4, especially with the addition of Yannick Ngakoue. I think he's a great player, and I think he's going to help their pass rush. Their pass rush was already one of the best, and now it just got even better. So number 3, I have the Steelers. I think the Steelers are overrated. I think they're a good football team, one of the best defenses, probably the best defense other than the Ravens, and their offense is good. It's above average. My issue is, they haven't played anybody other than the Titans, so I want to see them get a real game. I mean, that defense gave up 30 points to Philadelphia Eagles offense that had absolutely nobody out there, and they almost lost to the back. I believe it was a 3rd-string quarterback for the Denver Broncos. They almost lost to the Giants.
Yeah, we lost ourselves in that game.
You've had a lot of close games. I'm not overly confident in you yet. A win against the Ravens, I think you guys would be up there in contention with these next 2 teams. But I mean, you guys are a good team. And 2 out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they've just been outstanding the past couple of weeks. You're going to be adding AB soon. The Chris Godwin injury scares me next couple weeks. Luckily, they play the Giants this week, so that's an easy win.
Yeah.
They don't even need him. Scotty Miller's probably going to have a big day. But they're a good football team. And then Number one, you got to have the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, that defense has been good the past couple weeks, which is kind of their weak link. They have a great coach in Andy Reid. I really like him. I think he's a mastermind. Clock management is a little bit of an issue for him, but everything else is great.
Yeah.
You already have CEH, who's outstanding. You add Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is going for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns this weekend because he wants to beat up on the Jets. So
he might get more rushes than you'd expect.
The Chiefs are just such a good football team. You have 2 dynamic running backs, a top 2 tight end, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, Sammy Watkins in the slot, a good defense. Like, they packed the best quarterback, most talented quarterback maybe ever. Like, they are just such a good football team with their coach great. Their offensive coordinator is outstanding. He needs to be a head coach next year. They are just such a good football team. You can't not have them number one, I don't think. They have to be one. They're just so good. I know they have a couple losses, but I mean, they're just such a good football team.
I think the top 3 are kind of objective. I think personally you have to give it to the undefeated team who hasn't lost yet. But, the Chiefs are defending champions. They should be up there
because they've had an easier schedule? Just because they had an easier schedule?
We just beat one of the few remaining undefeated teams. So I really think that we are proven as a great team. And I think this week we'll even prove ourselves even more. We could have.
If he hits that field goal, there is no shot you guys win in overtime.
I agree with that. We got lucky,
your offense was stagnant, and if they have Derrick Henry on their side, they're just going to ride Derrick Henry all the way down if they got the ball.
There's a lot of luck that's involved in being an undefeated team every year. I mean, there's you're not going to play perfect games every week. We were playing perfect in the first half, and then we fell apart. In the second half, but we held on. And the only pick that I really have in your top 5 that I can't get behind is the Cardinals. I don't think you can give it to the Cardinals yet. Look, I'm with you. I think they're a rising young team. I think Kyler's an MVP candidate this season. He's not the best thrower of the football, really. He's really just dynamic and sort of like Lamar in a way.
The way he runs the ball, though, he's a better thrower than Lamar, and he runs just as well. It's not better than Lamar. So I really like him a lot because he can actually throw the ball, and he's as mobile as Lamar. He's like a better Lamar.
The only problem I have with Murray is sometimes he gets a little bit turnover prone, throws a lot of balls that shouldn't be thrown. But I still think they're a 10-win team. I think putting them top 5 is a little bit too early. I think they're a top 10 team. I do agree. I would say that. But top 5, I think you got to give that to a team probably like I would say the Seahawks, but you also I think.
But they just beat the Seahawks.
They did just beat the Seahawks.
So I don't. You can't put them in there. The Packers scare me because they got blown out by the Bucs. The Saints haven't looked the same. I mean, the Titans just lost to you guys. So I guess you could probably make a case for the Titans in there. Maybe the Bills. There's a lot of things you can make a case for. I think the top 4 are locks. When you go Ravens, Steelers, Bucs, Chiefs, I think those 4 have to be in there. But then your 5th team could go multiple directions, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I have bias against the Ravens. I guess that's why I don't have them in there. They really probably should be at 5 for me, but I'll put them at 6 just because.
Yeah, there's a lot of points I agree on with both sides. I think, Justin, I agree with your criticism of the Seahawks. I don't have them in my top 5 because I think that defense is absolutely horrible. It's just garbage. And then, Jake, I agree with your assessment of the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are the worst team in that division, which is tough because obviously that's the best division in football. But I think all 3 other teams in that division are better than them. They are definitely up and coming, and I think the 7-team playoff will help them because I think all 4 of those teams genuinely could get into the playoffs if the Saints falter.
They all have to beat each other, and they're going to beat up on each other, and they're going to have more losses. That's my only issue with that.
That's the problem. That's the problem. That division it's unfair.
It really is, and it's going to be tough. But I think the Rams lose this weekend. I think Tua is going to have an upset down there in Miami. I think the Rams are a little Brian Flores was the one that stopped Bill Belichick or Sean McVay's offense in the Super Bowl. So
yeah, that's true.
I do like the Dolphins this week, and I think that hurts the Rams. So that's my one criticism of the Rams. That's why I can't have them up so high. I think they're going to lose this weekend to the Dolphins.
That's fair. Just to wrap up, my top 5 is Bucs at 1, Chiefs at 2, Steelers at 3, Ravens at 4. And then you guys didn't talk about the Titans till the end, but I have the Titans at 5. I mean, they lost.
I definitely think they're in the conversation.
Yeah, I think Tannehill looks elite.
Oh, I was gonna say, what about Taylor Lewan's injury though? That scares me a little bit. He is one of the best offensive linemen in football. That scared me.
That's true. But I put my chips in Mike Vrabel. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL.
I agree.
He's so smart, and I think
ever since Tannehill took over, they've been an outstanding team last year.
Right. So that would be my top 5. And it's crazy. I think the only team in the NFC there is the Bucs at 1, and the other 4 are AFC teams. So, yeah, it'll be an exciting stretch here of football for the next couple of weeks. We actually get Chiefs-Bucs in a month, so that'll be a great game.
That's going to be a hell of a game. That's got to be the Fox game of the week.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Should flex to primetime if they could.
Yeah.
It's right after Thanksgiving, so I didn't even realize Steelers and Ravens play on Thanksgiving. So that's a great week of football.
Yeah, well, you get Redskins Cowboys on Thanksgiving too. So that's another good game.
God.
And then Lions and whoever they're playing. Oh, good God.
Lions and at least the one game's good.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, that'll wrap up this show. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and subscribe on YouTube. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon.